Hear me okay? Hi there, everyone. Can you hear me? Welcome. I hope you guys enjoyed those nice intro music that was chosen by Varun, who's one of our panelists today. It's great to have you all here. We're letting some folks still roll in, but I think it's about time to get started. So thank you all for attending. We will be having an enriching and valuable roundtable discussion, advancing careers in industries with community user groups. My name is Rachel Hartley. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I am the community program manager of our newly formed Autodesk Group Network. And we have today an amazing set of panelists with us, which I will let them do their nice introduction, so I don't want to give too much away, but they all are group leaders in our Autodesk Group Network. And to give you a frame, and I'd love to start just with what the network is, so that you have a nice vision for how all of our panelists connect to this program. So the group network is a global network of our user groups, developer groups, and online groups, where we invite customers and users to connect with others, to learn, build relationships, and share knowledge. So in the network, it covers a wide range of products, industries, languages around the world so that you can find these customer-led groups. Some groups are also led by our partner channels and resellers and even Autodesk employees. So in the network, we have 218 group leaders, Ralph, Varun, and Alexander, who's with us today, being one of those 218, that are leading 173 groups worldwide, and that number is still rolling. We have new groups adding in on a weekly basis. 103 of those groups are online groups and 69 are physical groups. And of course, these physical groups right now, it is hard to be meeting in person. So there's a lot of ways that these local user communities are connecting in virtual environments. And they cover 15 products currently, being Revit, AutoCAD, and 3ds Max, the top 3 products that we have the most groups around. And it's again in 14 countries and encompassing 10 languages. And like I said, covering all of our industries. And when we founded the group network, it was really important that we co-built this with a lot of our existing group leaders and that we had a vision that aligned with their purpose and why they are continuing to lead user groups. And so at the Autodesk Group Network, our vision is where people connect in community to share knowledge and collaborate across firms and industries to improve the use of design technology and make a better world. And to actually bring this vision to light, we formed the group network. And the group network's purpose and mission is to create this global network of user groups and underpin this community with the right tools and resources that groups need to manage their group and make it easier so that they can really focus on value add activities that enable them to grow their communities. And what I find really unique is the power of a network and realizing that power and connecting and collaborating with other leaders so that we can connect Ralph in Ireland with Varun in India and Alexander in Russia and even more. So aligned with not only the products or industries that you're operating in, but with community builders like yourselves as leaders. And then reaching and helping you reach personal and professional goals. There often are career promotions that we hear and career advancements from group leaders. Maybe you are aiming to achieve the expert elite status. So this is an avenue that we can help you reach those goals. And then ultimately adopting new and better ways of working, which I think we are all striving to do. So it's important that I do set the frame that within the Autodesk Group Network, we are deeply rooted in how we founded in supporting groups without centrally controlling these groups as Autodesk. And really our aim is to create these deeper connections between groups and their members and their community base and with Autodesk. So with that nice introduction of Group Network, it's my pleasure to enter into our panel discussion today. With Ralph based in Dublin, Ireland, we have Alexander in St. Petersburg, Russia, and Varun tuning in from New Delhi, India. So I'm going to hand it off first to Ralph to give a nice introduction.
Hi, Rachel, and hi, everybody, and welcome, and thank you for the invite to participate. I'm based in, as Rachel said, in Dublin, in Ireland, so really happy to be with everybody here. I'm an architect by profession and lead a number of industry groups, the Revit user group and Dynamo user group in Ireland, but also the AEC Hive, which is a community of innovators, and the construction IT Alliance BIM group, which is a more general multidisciplinary network in Ireland. So I also involved in a number of industry activities, such as the National BIM Council of Ireland, been participating in the Architects Council of Europe, and also the Institute of Architects in Ireland and the National Standards Authority. So really happy to be here.
Thank you, Ralph. Fantastic. It's great to have you too. Alexander, I'll let you do your intro next.
Thank you. Hello, Rachel, and hello, everybody. I'm Alexander Lapigan. I'm Chief Executive in Roseka company in St. Petersburg, Russia. Our company is a design and construction company, and I personally have an experience of 15 years as a chief project engineer. It is a project manager in design, in civil design in Russia. And also I'm an expert lead and one of first users of BIM 360 in Russia. And I'm today's group leader with my online Telegram group for chief project engineers, for project managers in design, Give to Give Friends, with about 450 members now. And also I'm a member of different working groups in our government in Russia about BIM and about BIM standardizing process, and member of international groups about BIM, like BIM Excellence Project with their sub-project BIM Dictionary. Very glad to see you here. Thank you.
Thanks, Alexander. And last but not least, Varun.
Hey everyone. Hi, my name is Varun, and I'm from New Delhi in India. And I started my career back in 2012 as a robotics engineer. And I have been handling projects related to product development, strategic implementation, and community management. And currently, I am employed at Autodesk as a community manager. And I'm handling a product called Fusion 360, which is a cloud-based CAD/CAM tool. And I spread the good news about how Fusion 360 democratizes design and manufacturing. So here I also manage programs to support the Fusion 360 community, and I support our customers be comfortable with the regular product updates. And I am so honored to be a part of this panel discussion. So I thank you, Rachel and Adam, and thank you all for joining us with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Varun. It's great to have you as well. And it's great to have, like you probably noticed in their introductions, one, they are leading communities that are in very different parts of the world, but there's going to be a lot of similarities and a lot of key learnings, I think, in how to lead that, across, BIM and in the architecture space, in Fusion 360, design and make. So it's going to be really, I think, just a really awesome discussion that we're going to dive into. I do want to let all of our attendees know that please use the Q&A. So if you have any questions for any of the panelists, we're going to try to utilize the Q&A function. You're more than happy to use the chat as well. And if you would like to ask a question live, you can raise your hand so that we can unmute you and that you can ask that question to the panelists. I would invite you to click gallery view in the top right of Zoom so that you can just see all of our faces. We're going to stop sharing from here just so you can see all of us that are participating today. So with that, we'll kick it into just the first question. And I'm really interested in why you decided to start a user group. What was that kind of, did you have a defining moment or a key moment that you decided that a user group was going to be the best outlet? And yeah, just give some insight into how you guys got started in this space. And maybe I'll kick it off to Ralph to answer first.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. I think the title of this talk actually is the reason. We were starting a business at the time, and we wanted to advance our business and advance our career, and we realized it's very difficult to do business without knowing people. So you need to meet with people, work with colleagues, find future staff members, find future customers, clients. So it was really about finding a place to meet like-minded people, and Yeah, and I think people by nature are social and orientated towards forming groups naturally anyway. You know, we go to teams and clubs and communities, and I think that's how people work. And they sort of navigate. It helps you to navigate and make sense of the world. And when we were starting our business sort of 12 years ago, what we realized is there was no place in Ireland where we could meet like-minded people who had the same interest of us in BIM and using Revit. And you know, since it didn't exist, we thought, well, we better go ahead and start it and help people. I really like the idea of the user groups. I mean, obviously there were sales channels that were promoting products, and you know, the sales community I do respect them, and they offer one useful perspective about the products and the use of products. But talking to other users it offers another perspective, and which I also find interesting, because users will talk about the kind of struggles and the warts and all, and so having, you know, both those perspectives is really useful when you're starting out on your journey. And that's, you know, that was our motivation, I suppose, for originally starting the different user groups, and just to get discussions going with people.
Yeah, I think that aligns to a lot. And I'd be interested, you know, Varun, from the Autodesk side, you know, I think Ralph touched on, you know, there's that sales and the marketing side of things, but also that balance of really having that user perspective in that discussion. So how do you see, maybe from, you know, Autodesk perspective, in starting community management and a community for Fusion 360 on the Autodesk side? Like, how do you bring that balance into your work?
Yeah. See, from Autodesk's standpoint, I think first thing is it is fun to be a part of a community, right? And as these communities have already become a part of my life now, so I think this also reduces the entry barrier from Autodesk's standpoint to communicate for product updates and provide the technical support within the user base, right? So I personally believe a lot in peer learning, and so that people can support each other, help each other with their technical queries and the best practices. So I think having a group like that really helps, even from our side, to lower the technical support provided by our team members, and it brings out the great ecosystem where people can help each other and nurture the collective growth.
Yeah, I think that, you know, aligned with a lot of the community programs at Autodesk, it really is how we can, you know, connect our customers to that expertise. And that could be Autodesk, you know, technical experts, but I think the power comes from the community and all of the experts that are out there. So yeah, thanks for that insight. And Alexander, how did you get started in online groups? I know, you know, that's the best way that you guys are engaging in Russia, and that's, you know, the most successful and thriving groups right now are those online communities. So maybe shed some light into how you got into this space.
Let me begin from 15 years ago, where I became a chief project engineer, and I was young and was have no experience in project management and design, and I know nothing about where I can take knowledge in project management, and I only Googled a lot and made a lot of mistakes in my projects, and made it slowly. And after 15 years of my experience in that, I understood that I need to share my experience, and not only I have to organize an online space for different project engineers who can help to each other with different issues in our projects, because there are a lot of issues in our projects, a lot of specific situations where we can find the only experience of other people helpful to solve our problems with our projects. And it was the moment when one of our BIM leaders, I'm a Russian BIM Leaders Club member, and my friend Alexander Popov started 3 online groups in Telegram about Revit, BIM 360, and Dynamo. And BIM 360 group exists is existing now. And he said, why don't you start a group for chief project engineers? If not you, who else? And I thought about, okay, thank you, Alexander, for that idea. I'll start, and I started it.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that. You know, we find that a lot with, I think, a lot of our group leaders or folks that are engaging in the space. It's like, you know, you're starting as just friends that, you know, need, you know, you see that need and you're like, well, okay, I guess I could do that. And, you know, just kind of running with it. So it's great to see the success of your group and, you know, the numbers continue to grow. So thanks for that insight. I think I'd like to move into the next discussion around the evolution of your group. So I think each of these communities have been around long enough that you've probably seen different phases of your user group. So I'm interested in, you know, what was the purpose of, you know, when you first started, and has that shifted or changed over time, especially, you know, as the communities that you're engaging with are using the products or, you know, learning how to use it better. How has that dynamic worked? And, you know, feel free, anyone, to start with that.
Well, I might come in there just, you know, because we've had some of these groups been going for a while. When we started out with the Revit user group, obviously there weren't many Revit users. And so the dynamic of the group was quite different at the time. We were probably trying to educate the industry, and with a small number of users, trying to get a message out to a larger group of people in industry. So the group tended to be presentation based, with, you know, lots of people in the audience who weren't users but who'd come along to understand what what was happening in this BIM space and Revit, etc. But over time, what happened was, as more and more people started using the product, the dynamic of the group changed, and, you know, became less about presentation and audience and more discussion. And so the whole dynamic changed quite a lot. So it was very difficult to see that there was any rules or formulas in forming a group. I think you just have to monitor what's happening and go with the changes. You know, people are unique, and it's all about timing and situation. So, but groups do evolve and they do change constantly, I think.
Yeah, and I think that it's important to recognize that, because it's a natural process. It's a, you know, natural process of anything, and to move and change with that community for your users, I think really helps sustain that group over time, and, you know, keep moving with that community. Varun, I think you might have had a very similar experience with Fusion 360 in India. Can you shed some light?
Yeah, so just to give you some background, I'm passionate about making things, and I love to work with people with a similar mindset. So in 2016, so, you know, that was the time when Fusion 360 started gaining popularity in Indian startup, D&M, maker, and hobbyist community. And everybody started recognizing, like, there's a new software that is amazing, that can do many things using a variety of workspaces. And I was into drones, 3D printing. That's actually my hobby, and I do these things. So I was always connected to people who were doing similar things in their life. And we used to connect on various channels to exchange project information, best practices, and all level of support for collective growth. That's where I decided that we need to have a group to support each other and to communicate with each other, right? And I started actually a group called Future of Design and Fabrication. It was the name of the first group, and it was a meetup. So I never thought this is going to go big, or we have to expand the community. So we had a small group on Meetup, and we used to host meetups in different maker spaces, and to meet with everyone in nearby maker spaces. So it was initially confined to New Delhi, which later evolved that I started noticing that there are people from different places all over India, and they wanted to be a part of such initiatives, though logistics is a big problem. So we decided that instead of running our Future of Design and Fabrication group, we need to change that to something even bigger. And that's where we decided to evolve that to Fusion 360 India. And instead of just having a group, it became a page on Facebook and Instagram to start communicating and more interaction with the community members. Right now, this is a group of more than 500 members. And our mission is now, our current mission is to bring the collective wisdom of Fusion 360 professionals in India. And we are now promoting a free and open platform for technical discussions, organizing in-person and virtual events, and many other initiatives. And having said that, we started by hosting in-person events, and we never thought we can go beyond that to do something else. So we used to collaborate with existing communities and many other people leading their own groups. And now I see it's almost 3 years me running this group. I see many of these members are running their own groups. They are running their YouTube channels, and many has transitioned from students to working professionals. And members in this group are teaching each other, and this is going towards a more self-driven community. So I think this is a great evolution. I have seen a lot of unique things, and I think this is just based on time and all the members. They teach us everything how to do it, pretty recently.
Yeah,
that's my personal experience.
It's really crazy to think that, when you guys started this, like you said, that there was just, a handful of you, and it was just to keep that, but you guys had such a strong spark. And I think that strong mission and, passion around, community and education and learning and building. And there's a lot of power in, where that starts and, where it can take you, even if you don't know 3 years ago that this is where it was going to end. Holding on to that spark and to that passion is really, really important. Alexander, I didn't know if you had any other additions to that, but I was gonna kind of segue into the current light of the pandemic and how the groups are navigating there, and that might be interesting for you to tag into because your group has really existed solely online.
I have not so long evolution history like Varun's group, but I can say not about pandemic at first, but about my own views on this group. After a few months of its existing, I understand that a lot of project managers are the last people who involved in BIM process because constructors, designers, and other people who make models by their hands involved in BIM more and more, but project managers understand about BIM not very good, and most of them know nothing about BIM. And I decided to publish more content about BIM in my group to enhance the level of knowledge about BIM of project managers. So my group turned to BIM partly, I think. And it is the most evolution of it, I think. And speaking about pandemic, maybe it kind of paradoxal, but there was no big shift in my group because it was online before pandemic, and it still online, and we only asking for each other they work remotely or not. And maybe the only questions about pandemic is people asks if some government institutes are working offline or online, or how they can work with these institutes online for moving their projects forward. And I think nothing more about pandemic.
Yeah, thanks, Alexander. Yeah, I'd be interested in Ralph and Varun. How have you kind of navigated that change? Kind of having your groups operating from a physical space. What are new ways that you're testing online engagement and engaging in those virtual environments? There's so much out there. So how do you kind of, cut through all of that noise and, capture that attention of your community members?
Well, I suppose for us, that's still a work in progress because obviously for the groups, we were very much a physical group that met physically. So we've tried having some online events. I'm not sure about the success of those yet. I mean, it's difficult to gauge. You have a lot of people registering, but when it comes to the actual event, the numbers actually attending is a lot smaller, and I don't know what it is. It's very difficult to get people to engage in discussion on online meetings. I don't know why. So for us, it's very much a work in progress. We're trying different things. I suppose we focused a lot this year on sort of podcasts and those types of things where you're trying to get information out to people rather than getting their attention. And I don't have any immediate answers, but maybe Varun will give us some tips and tricks.
Sure. See, for such pandemic time and lockdown stuff, where everything is becoming digital, I think I've been observing carefully all my groups and the conversations happening. I somehow feel these groups are made up of these groups and communities are made up of humans, and I think I feel these difficult times are not really impacting everyone. I mean, they are impacted by certain things in their lives, but when we talk about being a group or a community, I noticed that people tend to join more hands to solve these pressing issues in such difficult times. And I also noticed that in future, I think these communities are going to be more digital, and having the right technology can enable them to collaborate more effectively. And you can witness that you can witness this with the current K-12 education right now. I mean, all of a sudden the entire system adopted a cloud-based system to take everything digital, and the people were not ready, system was not ready, and everything was not ready. But as we say, the necessity is the mother of invention, right? So we just suddenly came out with new tools, new technologies, and a large chunk of world's population started remote learning, and that's the new normal today. For running our groups, I think there are certain effective ways that we are even trying, and social media tend to work really well. And there are certain new things coming on, like Discord is something new, which is a community management tool to manage your group. And it depends on demographics also, like people are trying Facebook and WhatsApp group to manage their engagement and interaction. And I also think we have been hearing about this content is king, right? But I think it has become a kingdom now. So creating more relevant and polished content and persistently and consistently pushing that content in the right effective medium is something that can really help as a medium to network with like-minded people, because all of a sudden everything has become digital. It's just not us, and we see a surge of webinars, content being promoted on social media. It's like going just like crazy. And from the viewer side, even I personally feel like there is a lot. I have got a lot of choices to make. I have to cherry pick one of that suits me, right? So I only take up things which really suits my taste and flavor. So in that case, our content really works. So if we are planning something, maybe a webinar, maybe some initiative, some program, I think it has to be really a polished one, something that can really solve a very crisp problem, specific problem, and that can help larger audience so that more people can participate.
Yeah, and Varun, do you think, and for anyone else as well, like that choosing that technology and that platform in which that you're engaging in the virtual space is like definitely very critical. Do you have any perspective on, if you recommend kind of trying like a wide range of outlets at first and then understanding where you're getting that traction? So like spinning up a LinkedIn group and Facebook and YouTube and, WhatsApp, and then seeing where people are? Or do you think it's better served in time to just kind of pick one and go with that?
No, definitely. I have experience with running a WhatsApp group, Facebook group, certain other things on Discord also. So I think it depends on the network we have, right? There are people who are pretty active. Like for example, there's a segment of audience which are good into gaming. They are like passionate about gaming, like video gaming, and they are very good on Discord. So if you manage to make a group there, so we'll attract those kind of audience who are mostly active on those kind of places. So I think WhatsApp usually works best for me because that is very easy and convenient. And also it completely depends on our audience, right? There are places where LinkedIn group works best because when people want to interact on a professional note, So they have certain kind of discussions, and Facebook group works best for us in terms of technical assistance and sharing the portfolio. People don't want to do too much in-depth discussions about the nuances of how things work and things work. They usually post it, and they want to maintain a very healthy and social relationship with people, showcasing, hey, I'm up with this, and look at this thing, and tell me what do you think about it. And WhatsApp group use is really helpful for us when somebody wants to interact in person, and they want to also share something similar like they shared on Facebook. But as I said, in India, WhatsApp group is like something which is really, really active, and people, because that's easily accessible, you get a right notification and you can just open up the message. And everybody has access to WhatsApp. So everything has its do's and don'ts. So it depends on our audience, what we are trying to cater.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think that's, what we hear across the group too. And prevalently, like even myself, I'm like, I don't want another thing I need to check. Like it definitely needs to be ingrained in something that's, already on my phone or my desktop, and understanding where that is based off your community is definitely gonna, I think, help set you up for more success if you're, starting to engage in this space. I would like to shift gears a bit and get more into a bit of a product industry focus. So I think we touched on it in the beginning. Ralph, you mentioned that, for starting, it was really helping learn the software and technology. But now, how have the discussions changed, or what types of engagements have you had with your groups as it relates to really trying to push the edge of industry and moving that forward? And I think Ralph and Alexander, with BIM adoption, and Ralph is working on connecting AEC sectors. So would love to have some insight into how that connects with your user group engagement.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we always took this sort of stance that what we talk about must be practical and must relate to industry. So although it was a Revit user group or a Dynamo user group, we always try to make it multidisciplinary and get views from architects, engineers, contractors. So that was important. We didn't want a group where people were just, sort of one segment of the industry just talking about a product. We even had other software vendors come and speak about related products at the Revit user group. So that, I think that was important, and that was sort of deliberate in the way we set up our groups, that we wanted to be more process focused and business focused than product focused, even though it was called a Revit user group. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the AEC Hive, what we're trying to do there is really get a conversation going about innovation. It's something that myself and my co-founder John Egan from BIM Launcher feel passionately about, that the pace of innovation is very slow. I mean, we've been doing this for 12 years now, and if you asked me 12 years ago, would we still be having conversations about whether we should do BIM or not, I would have said no, absolutely not. That'd be crazy. But yeah, we are 12 years later. So the pace of innovation is slow. The pace of adoption is slow. The industry is a fantastic industry. I mean, I love, as an architect, I love the AEC sector, because it's literally building the world. It's building the built environments that, where we live and eat and work and shop and do everything. So it's a fantastic industry. And at the project level, there's a lot of innovation, but that innovation never sort of percolates out to the industry in general. And if for people that's sort of standing on the outside of the industry looking in, it still looks like a very outdated, muddy boots kind of industry. And particularly for young people, it's not attractive. It's not an attractive industry. Like your choices are to go and build a new computer game, or design websites or whatever, or go to construction. Most people would think construction is probably the last place you want to go. So that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get a conversation going about innovation in this fantastic industry that we have, and it's been a great year for that. We've had lots of fantastic conversations, including yourself, Rachel, and Adam, and such broad topics. It's been an amazing year for that.
Yeah, and Rolf, can you, is this niche to what you see, in Ireland and Europe, or is this worldwide?
This is worldwide. We've had conversations with people in Australia, South Africa, Europe, the US, and everyone we've interviewed kind of says the same kind of feeling, that it's an amazing industry, but it's got a lot to do when it comes to being an innovative industry, and innovation at scale, I would say, is probably the thing. I mean, innovation happens, but it's such a small part of the industry, and even financial commitments to research and development. Most companies would probably invest less than 1% of their revenue in research and development, which is, really low. And we can understand why it's that low because of the poor profit margins in the industry. And that's why I think we need to start talking about it and bring it out into the open, and also get a message out there that this is a great industry for people to get involved in, and there's places for everybody. It doesn't matter if who you are, what your personality is. There's things you can do in this industry and help this industry. So we just want to have conversations, and I do see there's an appetite for people to talk about this and get beyond products, just talking about a particular software product, and your product is better than my product. Those conversations, I think, are coming to an end. It's how do these products work together? How do we leverage all the good stuff that's been developed in all these different products, in a collective way to bring the industry up? So I definitely feel that's the way the conversation is going.
Yeah,
I can add that. Can add these words. I think being an engineer means being an idealist, because when you're an engineer and you are really interested in your specialty, in your job, like most of participants of our Russian online groups, for my opinion, they all are interested a lot in their profession and in innovations. Right, but I understand that we have about maybe 10,000 of that people, and we have about 300,000 of people involved in design and construction, and only 10,000 of them are idealistic and involved in their profession a lot, and other people are not so interested, and that's the reason why the pace of innovation is so slow in engineering and construction.
Yeah, we have a comment from Mark in the chat, interested in your perspective on his comment. He said, I would say adoption by firm leaders of that innovation is a bigger issue. So curious your perspective on that position of adoption by firm leaders and how that impacts innovation.
Well, I think it comes back to that problem that the way the industry functions with very low profit margins, and firm leaders are obviously, that's what's on the top of their mind, is how do we keep our business afloat, and how do we meet, if we have stockholders, how do we meet their needs? So taking the small amount of profit that you make and feeding that back into innovation is a big decision for a firm leader, and and it's a difficult decision, but it is a decision that they have to make, and they have to sort of imagine and get a vision for their business and for this industry where it operates better and operates with better profit margins and better investments in R&D. But that's not an easy thing, particularly as Alexander said, where 80% of your workforce is not interested, really. They're just doing menial jobs, tedious jobs. And so yeah, I'm not sure if there's any easy answers, but I think getting the discussion going and getting beyond talking about your product is better than my product is definitely a way to go.
Yeah, and I'm curious, in your guys' groups, how, like, what's that balance of, you know, firm people who are making the decisions at that firm in, you know, product or innovation and where that money's going versus the users that, you know, are engaging, you know, day to day in that, and like, is there a gap there on who's engaging in these community groups, and, you know, what could be possible if we got more of those firm leaders and decision makers into the community conversation?
Mm. Well, I would say that what we experienced with the Revit user group anyway is in the early days, as I said, when we were doing these more presentation style, almost trying to educate the industry, we had a lot of business leaders coming to those sorts of sessions because they wanted to find out what's this thing about. But as soon as the discussions got more technical, you know, like how do you deal with shared coordinates and how do you whatever, like then the business leaders, well, that's too technical for me, I'm not, you know, not going to bother going to those. So the even the audience changed from the sort of high level people to the very technical people. So I think, I don't know what the answer is, but you probably need to have different groups for different audiences, and don't think that one type of group would suit everybody. So you need to have groups that deal with the high level stuff and groups that deal with the more technical stuff. And we sort of have that in Ireland between the 4 groups that we're operating through. The CETA Vim group is much more of a high level group aimed at business leaders, and whereas the Revit user group and Dynamo groups are more technical groups, you know, aimed at the technicians who are grappling with the technical issues of products. Yeah.
I can say that the best way is when stakeholder is an innovator himself and he understands that new technologies is the future for his company, for example, and he try to implement these technologies in his company because of his opinion only. And the second part is when stakeholder, when company owner has a good system of accounting and of managing projects, and he can understand by figures how, for example, BIM can make his company more profitable, and there are people in his company who can say him how BIM can help his company to be profitable. And most of all, company owners have no such good organization of their business and of their figures, financial figures in their business. And it is hard to discuss them and to say them how BIM can help them. And I think groups and our online groups can help employees of that companies sharing best practices and good cases, successful cases of implementing BIM in other companies to help innovators with cases of success of BIM implementing.
Yeah, thanks, Alexander. And I think this ties in. So we have a, in the Q&A, we have a question from Hillary, and she is a digital practice lead at her firm, and she's interested in starting in-house user groups in 2021 at her firm. And one of the challenges and also one of the advantages is that their CAD users are not drafters, but a range of users that include engineers, scientists, etc. So she's curious, in what kind of topics would you suggest for this type of user blend? And if you guys have any perspective on, you know, those in-house user groups and starting with that, you know, wide range of CAD users, if that's in any area of expertise. Varun, do you have an answer?
Yeah, not the specific one, but I would like to share some experience. See, running a user group is like farming for me. And it's like when a seed is planted in the ground, you cannot control the sunlight, you cannot control the weather. All we do is water and hope for the best. And similarly, in groups where we have multidisciplinary people, things change a lot in such communities. And we should be open to try out different things to nurture and sustain the group. And the thing that I have been following is we always listen to our members, and we make some internal group leaders within the group, and they all come with their certain industry background, and based on all the feedback that we get from the members, including the leaders, so we take and we make pragmatic decisions to maintain a very transparent and progressive environment. Sometimes when we have to make a group for the niche audience, it's much easier, but when we have group, like for example, our group includes industrial designers, mechanical engineers, simulation experts, and manufacturing engineers also. Sometimes they all have different perspectives, and when we host something, we have to make sure there is something for everybody, not for a specific set of audience. So we have to maintain the balance and harmony within the group.
Yeah, and so Varun, if I can expand on that, it's sounding like it is good to have these multidisciplinaries in the same room, but still making sure that the content or what you're serving is connected, and serves each of those. But it's important to have those perspectives in the room, because I think that really enriches the conversation, and then how those are connected and how they're not just thinking in their their siloed box of their work, but how that connects with who they might be handing off the project to, or how someone else would be engaging with that project.
Absolutely.
And I think actually in a way the online thing we've experienced recently has almost given us some clues, like the breakout sessions. Like doing breakout sessions at previous physical user group meetings was a bit of a logistical nightmare, and you'd have to hire a few spaces, so you wouldn't do it. But actually that would have been the best thing, is to start off with a high level meeting with everybody, and then let people go into specific rooms where they discuss particular topics that they're interested in, and then even maybe come back afterwards. And I experienced this recently with the Construction Progress Coalition in the United States. They had some online meetings, and they've had this format where they start off with a big group, go into breakout rooms, and with the virtual technologies now, that's quite easy to do. So that might be a clue, to have sort of high level groups and then very specific subject matter groups.
Yeah, I really like that, Ralph. And that's one of the key, there's so many challenges and things that we're overcoming this year, but you always try to find some of the things that it is pushing us to do. And, testing with that virtual environment in the breakout rooms is an awesome way to do that. So thanks for that. I know, so we have just a time check, about 9 minutes left. So I am interested and wondering, we had one question come in, or maybe a statement from Tony. He's like, do you feel like this is a full-time job? And, he sure does. And so, shed some light, one, on if it is a full-time job, why do you continue to lead user groups? Why are you engaging in this and doing it outside of your day-to-day job and taking on this new role?
I don't know if anyone wants to start. It is, it's definitely something they don't tell you when you think about starting a user group, is how much work is involved. It doesn't seem like a lot, but trying to organize dates and organize speakers and organize venues, and there's a lot to do, and making sure that you're getting the right presentations or people and the right topics. It's a lot to do, and it's quite difficult if it's one person trying to do that. It would be better if that somehow that load could be spread. That's something personally I haven't figured out how to do to be able to spread that load. But I mean, having done this for 10 years now, I'd be interested myself in some ideas on how do groups succeed. The group leader, or the person who set up the group in the first place. That would be an interesting, if anybody had some ideas on that would be fascinating to hear.
Yeah. Adam, do you have any, I know I'm gonna call you out here. He's been taking notes for us, but in succession planning, how you keep handing off that group, especially if you've been doing it for so long.
I was actually going to call on Varun because he's a master at enrolling other people to lead. So I'd love him to answer this a bit too. But part of what we've talked all along the way about listening to your groups, listening to the individuals in your groups, and if you ever hear people with just an inkling of like, hey, I'm kind of interested in doing this thing, or I'm kind of interested in doing this presentation, just like really use that as an opportunity to encourage them to do that, encourage them to take those leadership roles, and then try to make that as rewarding as an experience as possible for them by supporting them in that process and celebrating. And then through that over time, you can sort of have a community of leaders who feel shared responsibility and shared kind of pride in what's being built. But Varun, I'd love to hear your insights on that.
Yeah, and adding to that, I also think, from my experience, I have seen people, they want to start a group, and sometimes they do not have a clear understanding of why they want to start the group, right? So what they want to achieve and what is the purpose of doing the hard work. So the thing is, starting a group is like an entrepreneurial journey in its own way, right? And it's a full-time thing. Trust me. I mean, when I started, it started with the passion to just meet with friends on a weekend, and later on, more and more people started coming in. So we have to have longer vision about why we are doing it, how we are doing it, and at the same time, when we start such kind of initiatives, right, when we start to see more people subscribing to the group and they are becoming a part of these initiatives, so there has to be a reason and a purpose to motivate everyone to do certain things, right? These group doesn't go on its own, and the group leader actually becomes the engine of the train that pulls up everybody to do certain things. So there are certain good practices, and now we have this community platform called Community Dojo, right? And it has a lot of content already available, right? Some best practices, how to start the group, how to engage, and doing all those things, right? See, community engagement is something for me. I feel I always pressed on social pressing issues and burning problems, which people crave to be solved within the community. And like, for example, there's a woodworking group, and they have been constantly looking for innovative ways to make flat pack furniture, right? So I collaborated with a few people in my network, and I asked them, like, you have great knowledge, and would you like to do some events and webinars with us? And they came on board. It was a good practice for them to socialize and network with people. At the same time, our community members got a chance to interact with an expert to solve that specific thing. So we have to find that specific burning problem that people are facing. And if we just solve that by using a certain program or initiative, then I think people try to love that thing. And it also brings a lot of credibility and accountability that this group literally solves my real problem. It's not about, doing, like going, beating around the bushes kind of stuff. So I think that really works.
Thanks, Varun. And we did have, Tata had asked a great question. I think you already touched on it a bit, and we have so many questions coming in a short amount of time, which is unfortunate, but happy to stay over 5 minutes if needed. If you guys can do that, and, just for anyone listening in. But he did ask, what gets people excited about attending your user group sessions? And, that touches on that engagement piece. And, between you and Ralph, is there any, like unique thing that you do in your group that you think kind of sets it apart differently, that that's what keeps people coming back? Or what's your take on that?
I was going to say, before the pandemic, the pizza and the beer. And that's one of the things you miss about virtual meetings is those sort of casual conversations that you're having over a coffee or pizza or beer at the beginning or at the end of the user groups, and that's something you don't get through the virtual meeting. So be great if someone came up with the idea to have virtual pizza or virtual beer. But I think if people come away from the meeting having learned something, so that's what's really important, to get people who will share something that opens their eyes to a new way of working or a new process or new possibilities. That, I think, brings people back, because they learn the experience of engaging with a group enriches them, and that's been my own experience participating in groups, and that's one of the reasons why we keep doing it, is because we're constantly amazed by what people are doing in this industry when they begin to share it in these group environments.
Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Yeah, and Alexander, I'm interested. I know this is one of, when we are coming into the panel, this was one of your key questions that you don't quite know the answer to, but how has the number of members in online groups impacted your group's activity and discussions? And what is the optimal number? And I think a lot of people have that question, and they're understanding, especially as you move to the virtual space, like when is it too much or when is it too little? Like what have you observed, engaging in the online space of that number, and how that impacts the types of discussions?
It is a good question connected with the previous. How can we have time to full-time work inside different communities? 1.5 months ago, 6 weeks ago, I was a member of about 30 online groups. And once I understood that I have no time for reading all of this content, because my own group has about 500 members, and there are from 10 to 20 to maybe to 50 messages per day, but some groups have about 5,000 members and have about 500 messages per day, and nobody can read this content in all of these groups. And I became member of only 10 main groups, I think. And of course, you have to choose the important, which group is important for you and which are not. And number of messages depends of the group members of it's specific, because, for example, in my group, project managers are very busy, as all project managers all over the world, I think, and they have no time to flew there to speak for different topics, and they only ask their questions, take the answer and go away. And there is no much messages in my group. And I know that a lot of people are just reading all the content but posting nothing, but they're reading all the messages. And in other groups, a lot of people goes to type something, to ask easy questions when they can find the answers in Google. But kind members of these groups help them. Some of them are expert elites and BIM leaders, and they are ready to help everybody. And it produces a lot of messages in that groups. And it became hard to be a member of such groups. Yeah. So I have no answer, no good answer. What is the optimal number of members in group? It is a question for me too.
Yeah, I think that, that's similarly shared by others, and just through learning and kind of almost, it seems like your personal take too on what's valuable. Like I don't even know if there is that ideal equation, but it's what that person is coming to get, like you said, and just kind of learning through that. So thanks for that insight. And I know we are already over, so I am probably we'll start closing it down. But if you guys have any, last thoughts, last statements for, folks attending in today, I know we've had a lot of comments come in that, you know, they appreciate the worldwide conversation and the insights that you guys have brought today. I think it's been immensely valuable. Excited to hand out the notes to everyone. Those that are still on the line, make sure you do complete that Airtable form that we submitted into the chat. I will submit it one more time because you will get the notes and you will get the recording of today's session. So if anyone has any last thoughts, statements, feel free.
Yeah, well, I would encourage anyone listening just to engage with people, whether you call it a group or if it could be a small group, could be a big group. It's fascinating what you learn from people. And I know we're all talking about technology, but technology without people and process, doesn't work. We all know that as well. And so yeah, just I would encourage it's really rewarding to participate in and see what people are doing outside of your sphere. So and I think that's been for this year anyway. I think the world has opened up to everybody. I think everybody will agree. We're having conversations across the world even now, which we probably wouldn't have done a year ago.
Very true, Ralph.
Yeah, and adding to that, I think being a part of the community or even owning a group or your own group is equally rewarding. It gives a tremendous amount of opportunities to network with people, and it gives enough exposure to see how you can improve in your workflows as a professional and many other things. So it has a great impact on our personality, harmony, and we get a chance to make new friends, like-minded people, and people who we all love to have a professional and collective growth. So it's all-time experience. It can't be explained by just words. I encourage everyone to experience this, definitely.
Thanks, Varun.
And I can say that we are now living in a sharing economy, and it became more sharing from time to time. And the information and knowledge is the only thing that we can share with losing nothing. And I think it motivates me a lot to be a member of user groups, to share my expertise in different things, in different technologies, and to lead my own group and to motivate others for sharing their knowledge too.
Thanks, Alexander. I think that's a powerful way to end today's panel discussion. And I'm honored the group network has brought me to meet each of you. You guys are all, this is why I wanted so highly to have you guys on our panel today, because I can feel the passion. I'm inspired by you all and continue to be inspired each day and each year. So I'm excited to see what 2021 brings for your guys' groups, and where it'll take us. It'll take Group Network and all the other groups around the world. So with that, we will end today's panel discussion. So again, thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you to all of our attendees. Looking forward to following up with each of you. I did put my LinkedIn in there in case you do want to connect one-on-one. If you have questions about starting groups, you can always email groupnetwork@autodesk.com. And with that, enjoy the last day of AU for everyone.
Can I just say, Rachel, on behalf of all the group leaders, to you and Adam for the fantastic job you've done in the last year, just pulling this all together. I'm sure you don't get enough thanks for the great work you've done. So thank you, both of you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really thankful for bringing this Community Dojo platform. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
And thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.